Okay, we're going to get started. So please be respectful. Please give me your attention. And it's very informative tonight, I really think. Okay, question number 1. Why don't you have sex before marriage? My question to you is, where were you the past 3 weeks? You know, for a really great resource on this question, I would suggest that you go to revolutionyouth.ca and watch part 1, 2, and 3 of this series. That's my answer. Good? Okay, next question. Is it okay to pick out an engagement ring before getting it? I assume what this person meant was, is it okay to pick out an engagement ring together before getting it? I would recommend that you not just go in and randomly pick one. It would be good to pick it out before buying it. Let me fix the wording of your question. Okay. It all depends, okay? And these questions it's all kinds of different questions, but it all depends. If you want to surprise your girl when you pop the question, I would suggest not taking her ring shopping. If you take her ring shopping, she'll have a pretty good idea that you're thinking of proposing. That's typically the progression. With this, however, you run the risk of her not entirely liking the ring and then having to return and replace it anyway, which is super annoying. I had to do that. And I even took her ring shopping. She picked it out, and then I still had to return it. But that's okay. That's okay because I love her. But anyway, yeah, thanks. So I took her ring shopping, and she still changed her mind. I think it's a good idea. Here's what I think. I think it's a good idea to pick out the ring together, but then keep the specific proposal day a surprise. I mean, if you're telling her, I got you this ring, and I'm going to propose on January 2nd at 3:33 p.m., that's just boring. So keep that a surprise. It's fine to pick out a ring. But while on this subject, can you allow me to say a couple of things? Yes? Okay, good. Girls, let me just say to you, there is no need to have insane expectations when it comes to your ring. It's not a bad thing to want a beautiful ring, seeing as how you'll be wearing it for the rest of your life, but there's no need to spend 6 months' wage on a rock for your finger. That being said, guys, don't skimp out on the ring. Unless your girl is like completely cool with the whole hand-me-down thing or the something cheap thing, don't go El Cheapo. You know, unless it's a really valuable family heirloom, don't just default to that, okay? Girls dream of this moment for a good portion of their lives, and you don't want to leave a bad taste in their mouth, figuratively speaking. You want your girl to be proud to show that thing off to her friends. And the lady said, amen. Bottom line, and here's the bottom line, find a balance between beauty and practicality. It is wiser to have a bit extra cash when you first get married, as marriage and getting settled into a new place can be expensive. I would rather, personally, I'd rather have a house and my wife have a cheaper ring than live in a boxcar and her have 10 carats or 50 carats, whatever is big. 10 carats might be small, or maybe it's big, I don't know. Big, small? You guys don't even know. Okay, so yeah, I'd rather have a nice house or at least a starter home than a big ring. Some people, they buy cheaper rings at first and then buy new ones down the road on an anniversary when they can afford it, and that's not a bad thing. Okay, so you got more than you bargained for with that question. Moving right along, is it okay to have a crush on Bailey Hansen? I don't know who it is, but if she or he is a Christian, go for it. I have no idea who this is. Okay, we should move on. Next question. Is it okay to date Savannah Dorian and Bailey Hansen? I mean, if they're Christians, sure, but I wouldn't suggest doing it at the same time. That's called cheating. Date one and then the next one later. Next question. Is it okay to date Justin Bigger, Justin Lehman, Kent O'Donnell, and Isaiah Biding? Again, they're great guys, but not all at the same time, please. Okay. Please do not point fingers. If you have a suspicion of who asked the question, don't point fingers, please. All right, I need your attention. For this one. It's all right to have a little bit of fun. This question came in, would it be okay to have sex in space? If you're married, sure. Why not? All right. I've totally lost the audience. It's time to have a drink. Cheers. All right. Seriously, though, a real question. Thank the Lord. Okay, here's the question. You said, meaning me, in part 2, that we need to be emotionally connected, but also said in the tips of that lesson not to become emotionally attached. What are things couples should and shouldn't do, or should and shouldn't talk about to find the right balance of knowing, but not being dependent on one another? Now, to clarify, first of all, I did not say not to become emotionally attached. I said not to become emotionally intimate too early. Too much emotional intimacy, it leads to emotional attachment, which creates messy breakups and a multitude of other problems. This is just the way God created it. Intimacy always leads to attachment. And the problem with being intimate, like emotionally, we're not even talking physical intimacy, but the problem with emotional intimacy too early is that you so get attached and invested to this person, and if you break up with them, well, all your dirt goes with them. You understand what I'm saying? So you have if you have a bunch of boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, let's say you had 8, 10 in your teen years, and every single one of them knows everything about you, there's a lot of dirt around the city about you, and then you got to move. That's really awkward. So I didn't say don't become attached. I said don't become too intimate too early because it leads to attachment, and that can make a mess. Basically, my point was to keep it as innocent as possible as long as you possibly can. I would avoid talking about things like these. I would avoid telling your boyfriend or girlfriend all of your past mistakes too early. Again, it's important to open up about these things if you're getting serious, if you're thinking about getting engaged or getting married. Again, don't on your honeymoon tell them, hey, I used to be a prostitute or something like this. Bad idea. Tell them your mistakes and your failures, but not on the first date. Bad idea. I would not talk about your family problems. There's no need to talk about, all your issues in your family, all the skeletons in the closet. Not wise. I would not talk about your sexual addictions if they've existed in the past or if they're in your present. I wouldn't talk about that prematurely. It's opening up that door for intimacy. And I definitely wouldn't talk about your sexual desires that you have for them. That's a really bad idea. Okay? Save it for the honeymoon. There's no need to open up too early. See, the problem with being too emotionally intimate with a boyfriend or girlfriend, again, now they know all your dirt. If you come to a point where you realize they aren't right for you and you want to break up, you'll probably find it difficult because all of your secrets and problems go out the door with them. And chances are they're going to tell your dirt to other people and their next few significant others, which is not a pleasant thought to think that every girlfriend or boyfriend that they have in the future, they'll probably know about everything that you've done. That's just not a pleasant thought. In fact, it could become so strong, this intimate bond and attachment, that you may even end up staying with them just because you're so emotionally involved and don't want your secrets to get around, even if you don't think they're the right one. You can become that emotionally involved that it makes it clouds your vision and your understanding when it comes to breakup. So again, it's just important and wise not to be emotionally involved too early. The better thing to do is keep it innocent until you know that they're the one you want to marry. There's nothing to lose by taking your time in revealing your deep secrets to somebody. There's nothing to lose. only things to gain. And even if you wait till you're engaged, some engagements end up breaking up and breaking off. It happens. So you can never know for certain. So it's unwise on like date 1 or 2 to tell everybody or your date all your secrets. So the question, just to wrap it up, things that you should and shouldn't do, I would say for sure, you shouldn't push physical boundaries. Physical intimacy is treacherous because your partner can never unexperience something that they experienced with you. What they did with you, they will remember for the rest of their life. And again, it's going to go to their next significant other. They're going to know about it, and lots of people know. It's just, don't go there. It's not wise, for many reasons, that being one. I would also say don't act like a married couple. You ever seen these people, they're dating, and like they're even worse than a married couple? You can't get them apart. It's like you can't talk to one of them because the other one's like looking over their shoulder. You know what I'm talking about? Don't be like that. Don't be that couple. Some people, it's like they're married minus the sex. It's just stupid. Don't be like that. I would say do go out in public for your dates. That's just a good idea. And things that you should and shouldn't talk about, I would say talk about whatever you want. Just be careful of the above-mentioned things, opening up too quick. Okay, next question. Informative so far? Great. Okay, good. Next question. What are some ideas that you've used for things to do on a date? Great question. That's a great question. Let's give it up for that question. It's a great question. Well, unfortunately, we live in Fredericton. It's a beautiful city, but going on the walking trail can get old very quick. And you can only do it for like 7 months of the year anyway because of our winters, so unless you're into snowshoeing. Or cross-country skiing, I suppose. Anyway, the bottom line or the thing that you really want to do when it comes to dates is you want to create opportunities for conversation. Okay, we talked about this in part 2, but so many people, they start dating and it's like they don't even talk. Or they just try to rush the physical side of things. They're not really interested in each other as people, just as bodies, and that's unfortunate. So the point in dating is to create opportunities for conversation. So here are some ideas. Do a puzzle. Play Monopoly or a board game. Go buy some groceries and cook a meal together somewhere where there's somebody else present. Don't do it alone. That's just, again, it doesn't look right. I would say go on double dates and group dates. I mean, if you find it awkward, even especially at the beginning of the dating relationship, having other people there, it can help that out. Help make you feel a little more comfortable. Trisha and I tried the Clay Cafe one time. We won't go back, but maybe you'll find it really great. We just, our relationship was strained that day. Go for a walk downtown. They got some pretty shui shops down there. Shui, it's a really great word. You should start using it. Go bowling. Yeah, go bowling. That's cool. You can talk while you bowl. If you have your license and parents' permission, go on a day trip. Why not? Just don't come back home at like 3 a.m. That's not a good idea. Try to aim before midnight. My opinion. The whole point, again, is to create opportunities for conversation. And that's why I didn't watch a movie on my list. I mean, this, in my opinion, we watched movies when we were dating, but a movie inhibits conversation. It actually promotes that you shouldn't talk, which really, when you're dating and trying to get to know one another, it just kind of defeats the purpose in my mind. It's not to say you can't watch one once in a while, but every date probably isn't the best idea. Get out, do something, talk to each other. It's a great thing, okay? Does that answer the question? Too bad if it didn't. We're moving on. Okay, next question. Are thoughts of sex considered fornication? Are thoughts of sex considered fornication? To answer this, let me read you a verse first, Proverbs 23, verse 7. It says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." In other words, whatever is in your brain, whatever you think about a lot, eventually it comes out into your life and into your actions. And the more you think about sex and fantasize about sex, the harder it is to keep those things just as thoughts. Because thoughts always lead to actions if they're dwelt on long enough. Think about it this way, okay? If sexual thoughts were permitted and not against God's word and not against the Bible, whatever, if they were permitted, then things like phone sex and sex hotlines, they would be cool, right? Because you're not looking at anything. You're not actually physically with somebody. It's just going on in your brain. But of course, we know these things, a sex hotline, that's pretty seedy. It's pretty dirty and gross. But when you think about it, it's just a thought. So that kind of brings it into context. Sexual thoughts, they're very treacherous. They're not good. Remember, fornication in the Bible, it's just a word that simply means all forms of sexual immorality. It comes from the Greek word porneia. It doesn't exclusively mean intercourse. It's like an umbrella word. It means all kinds of sexual immorality. A sexual thought, it falls into this category because you're sexually lusting after a woman or a man in your mind. A sexual thought can arouse you just as much as an image or as much as a real person, and therefore sexual thoughts should be avoided. While it is only normal for sexual thoughts to pop into your head from time to time, it becomes an issue when those thoughts are dwelled upon and, of course, acted upon. So, you know what? Don't think you're strange or a weirdo if you get a sexual thought from time to time. You're not. That's normal. God created you with that sex drive, with those desires, so the thoughts are normal. It's when you dwell upon them that it becomes the lust issue, okay? So the next question, it flows in this one. Could lust be defined as thinking of sex and having sexual fantasies? And of course, again, yes. Yes, absolutely. Lust can be defined as just thoughts of sex and not acts of sex, of course. And the final question in the same vein of thought, and this is a good question, okay? Is planning and imagining my wedding night lusting? When, in comparison to the wedding, is it acceptable to start doing this? Okay, so is planning and imagining my wedding night lusting? Well, I don't know who asked this, but if you're 13 years old, I would say this is a bad idea. Just saying. Maybe you want to get married, but there's no need to go out and buy your silk undershorts just yet, okay? You're in grade 7, calm down. I'm just teasing. Let me say this in all seriousness. Planning is one thing. Imagining is another thing, okay? There's obviously nothing wrong with a guy or girl who's engaged to be married going out and buying stuff for their wedding night. Contraceptives, things of this nature. That's fine. It's no different than a female going on birth control before the wedding, right? No different. So planning is one thing, but as far as imagining the act beforehand, this is falling into that same category, sexual thoughts, which, as we discussed, it's not right. And I don't think engaged people understand this, but please remember, in reality, your fiance is just a glorified boyfriend or girlfriend. Just because you're engaged, you're not a spouse yet. You're not married. And until you say, I do, you don't belong to one another, and you don't have the right to, of course, act out those desires and even think about them. You're not each other's yet. Make sense? People forget that. You're just still boyfriend and girlfriend. Hopefully a little bit more committed, but technically boyfriend, girlfriend. Next question. Wait, I think I had something else there. Here it is. Okay. In reality, there's not much need to go and buy stuff for the wedding night until a week or two out from the wedding. You don't need to have this stuff on hand for months and months or as soon as you get engaged. It's just not wise. Having that stuff on hand can lead to tempting situations. Common sense, right? Common sense. Now, next question. Is everyone really uncomfortable right now? You doing all right out there? All right. It's going to get worse. I'm just kidding. Okay. Sex is obviously more than just intercourse. Can I just also remind you guys, you guys asked me these, I didn't make these up, just a reminder. Okay, sex is obviously more than just intercourse and includes things like oral sex, petting, things of this nature. So, is there a point when making out becomes sex without genital contact? I would say to this question, there is definitely a point while making out that you cross over the line into something sexual. And if you're honest and you've experienced making out, you would tell me the same thing. There's definitely that point, you know when you've crossed the line. To further answer this question, I want to ask this question. This is actually really good. It might, make some of you feel awkward, but I'm going to say it. Does getting an erection, this is from a guy's perspective, does getting an erection and pre-cum, or the technical term is preejaculatory fluid, okay? This happening when kissing mean I'm lusting, or is it an okay part of godly attraction? These two questions go hand in hand. Again, the technical term here is preejaculatory fluid, and this fluid, it's emitted from the male urethra during sexual arousal. And if this is happening, it means that your body, it's gearing up and getting ready for an orgasm. The preejaculatory fluid, it acts as an acid neutralizer to protect the sperm cells. I mean, it actually serves a purpose to help the female get pregnant. And the underlying question here in both of these questions is, where do we draw the line of physical intimacy during dating? Some people, they're on this extreme and they don't have any boundaries. Some people are on this extreme and they're like, don't even look at me. Okay, so I don't think either extreme is wise. I think it's important that, we draw a line somewhere, but where? And to be honest with you, this is a tough question. Because the bottom line is, I've been saying the bottom line a lot, the lowest straight thing, sorry. The bottom line is it's possible to become aroused by even the simplest touch at times. It depends on past experiences, it depends on your age, it depends on your level of innocence. So does this mean that we should say no to a kiss, say no to a hug, say no to even putting your arm around someone? I don't think you can draw the line at a specific physical action. I don't think you can. Because again, everyone is slightly different in my opinion. I think where we need to draw the line is just before arousal. If you start to feel that sexual engine going, you need to put on the brakes and back up because you've crossed the line if you're starting to be aroused. Girls, please realize that just because something isn't arousing you, it doesn't mean that your guy isn't becoming aroused. Girls take a lot longer to become aroused sexually. Guys, it's pretty instantaneous at times, okay? Please understand that. That's just the way God made us. And you can actually help the process by keeping things innocent. If you really care for them, keep it innocent. It helps us immensely. I think one of the biggest principles you can take from this whole series regarding dating is just keep it innocent. Keep your conversations innocent. Keep your physical activity innocent. There's no need to be so intimately involved with people. Keep it innocent. Innocence, contrary to what the world tells you, innocence is not weakness. Innocence is strength. Ignorance to certain things and not knowing things, that's not a weakness. That is a strength to you. And people in this room that have gone too far and crossed boundaries and crossed lines, if you were to talk to them and they were to be open with you, they would tell you that what they've learned, they wish that they could unlearn it. They wish that they could go back and reclaim that innocent state. So don't think that you're in a bad position because you're ignorant to some sexual things or whatever. You're not weak. That's a strength in your life. Keep it. Don't just, throw it away. So to answer the question, pre-ejaculatory fluid, this function, it's a natural bodily function, but it's not an okay part of godly attraction. Because again, you're into your body is basically on the road to an orgasm. You've crossed the line of arousal. Why start down the road only to have to turn back around? It just doesn't make sense. Sexually, it's frustrating. That's just pointless. Getting to this point and stopping time and time again, it's just going to frustrate you sexually, and it only makes it harder and harder to resist sexual activity in the future. Again, there's hormones that are going through your brain in these moments, chemicals and whatnot, so it just makes it more difficult. Don't do that to yourself. Stay behind that line. I said it a couple of weeks ago, but almost sex is like almost obese or almost conceited. If you think you're almost, then you already are. So this kind of falls into that category. It's like an almost sex kind of a thing. Steer clear. Okay, next question. Easing up a little bit on the awkwardness. How do you know if she is the one? Good question. Good question. Okay. First, if she passes the Christian test and you're on the same page spiritually, that's good. But now you need to take a step back and ask yourself this question. Can I actually see myself with this person for the rest of my life? Now, at 16, you've experienced like 1/6 of your life, 1/7, I don't know, something like that, 1/8, whatever fraction you want to pick. So you can't even really, at this point, grasp 70, 80 years. You can't even begin to grasp that. But it's important that you really try. Take a step back and think, man, can I see myself with this person for like 50, 60 years if we both live that long? I mean, you've been with her 6 months, a year, and you're thinking, yeah, I can do this. Just slow down there, cowboy. Take a moment, Think about this. Like 50 years. Can you do it? If you think, yeah, go for it. Actually, you got to insert one more step. Just a second. And while you're doing this, I would also say, be sure to put sex out of your mind and think of who she or he is as a person. Because it's easy to think through the lens of, physical attraction, especially when you're a young, single, late teen, early 20s, whatever. The intermediate step that I should insert, and I'm going to insert, is also talk to your parents and or pastor. If they feel it's a good move as well, that's a good sign. Okay? Very good sign. But at the end of the day, make the decision for you. Don't make the decision for your parents. Don't make the decision for your pastor. Don't make the decision for your significant other. Make the decision for you. For you. That's so, so important. You are the only one that has to live with your decision, nobody else. Okay? Make the decision for you. And I've heard of people doing this, but if somebody comes up to you, claiming to be all super spiritual and stuff, God bless those super spiritual people. No, it's important to be spiritual, but you get these people sometimes and they're like, the Lord has spoken to me and you are to marry this person or you are to marry me or something like that. It's like, smile and nod and then make the decision for yourself, okay? I would let your leader's words hold more weight with you. Like if your pastor says, this is a great girl or this is a great guy, I can see this being a good thing. Let those words hold more weight with you than some random Joe on the side of the road. But chances are, if your pastor is wise, he's not going to be telling you who you should marry in the first place. Make the decision for you after seeking counsel. Is that good advice? Okay, next question. Looks like we're going to have some time at the end for some live questions, so you can submit those. Second week of this series, I said that if you like someone, then you should talk to your parents or pastor for their help and advice. What if you don't want to talk to your parents because it's awkward? And you don't really have a pastor, but an interim pastor, but it's awkward to talk to them too. Who should you talk to? First of all, find a pastor. And if you don't know who that is and you can't figure it out, come chat with one of the leadership here. We'll help you figure out who your pastor is. That's a very important relationship. But let me say this. Usually the hardest conversations are the ones that you so desperately need to have. It's easy to talk to your friends and people who will tell you what you want to hear, but sometimes we need someone to tell us what we need to hear. Amen? And your parents, at the end of the day, they've been through the whole dating process before. Lean on their wisdom. Your parents aren't as dumb as you think they are. I know what it's like to be a teenager and think my parents knew nothing. Now I realize my parents know so much, okay? Lean on that wisdom. Next question. How many more we got here? 1, 2, 30. Okay. Now this is a really, really good question. I did some research on this one because I really didn't know the answer. Probably worked on it for like an hour and a half, actually. So we should be here a while. As Christians, do we believe in using protection? Should we only be having sex if we want kids? Good question. Now, there are certain Christians, Christian groups, I should say, Catholics in particular, and individuals who are against contraceptives of any kind, birth control pills, condoms, and so on. Now, from my understanding, this is just from what I've done some research today, these people don't believe that sex is only for procreation. They do permit sex as a means to establish oneness in a marriage and enjoy the pleasure of your spouse, but they also believe that when you do something to inhibit the natural reproductive function of your body, you are going against God's plan. Okay, so that's what they believe. Is it legitimate? Now, this movement of people, they've given themselves a name. It's quite interesting. They've come to be known as the Quiverful movement, taking its name from Psalm 127 and 5, happy is the man who has his quiver full of children. Extremists in the Quiverful movement even believe that practicing the rhythm method, which is simply avoiding intercourse during the wife's ovulation stage of her menstrual cycle, even this is against God's will. Okay? That's what they believe. Now, does this viewpoint stand up in Scripture? First of all, claiming that using contraceptives is unnatural might be true. However, something being unnatural doesn't necessarily make it sinful. There are many unnatural things we do on a daily basis. I shaved my face like 3 days ago. Women shave their legs, hopefully. Now, we are preventing our bodies from doing what they do naturally, but I'm not sinning when I shave my face, okay? And neither are you, ladies. The legs, not the face. Now, aside from Psalm 127 and 5, the Quiverful movement, they use the account of Onan in Genesis chapter 38 to argue their case, all right? Genesis chapter 38, I think I gave you the right reference there, 38:7? I think I gave her 37 and 7, sorry. Genesis 38 and 7, it says, and Judah's firstborn, he was wicked in the sight of God, and God killed him. Bad Okay, next verse. And Judah said unto Onan, who is brother, go into your brother's wife and marry her and raise up seed to thy brother. Verse 9, and Onan, he knew that the seed should not be his, and it came to pass when he went into his brother's wife that he spilled his seed on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing that Onan did, verse 10, it displeased the Lord, and then God killed him too. So Onan, you got to understand this, okay? Because they use this passage against contraceptives. Onan was not condemned for using the pull-out method as a form of birth control. He was condemned and ultimately killed because he failed to uphold God's command found in Deuteronomy chapter 25. Verse 5, it says this, if brethren dwell together, and one of them dies and has no children, then the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto some stranger, but her husband's brother shall go in unto her and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of a husband's brother unto her. And it shall be that the firstborn which she bears shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead, the dead brother, that his name be put not out of Israel. Verse 7, and if the man doesn't want to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders and say, my husband's brother, he refuses to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother. And then the elders of his city shall call him. They'll bring this guy like Onan, for example, call him and speak to him. And if he still stands to his view and opinion and say, I will not take to her, verse 9, then shall the widow, the dead brother's wife, come unto him in the presence of these elders, take off one of his shoes from his foot, spit in his face, and shall answer and say, so shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house. Okay, here's the point. If Onan didn't want to be a father, if he didn't want to father a child with his sister-in-law, then he should not have slept with her. There was proper protocol in place. You know, he should have given her his shoe, let her spit in his face. She would have said a few words, and it would have all been done, okay? If he didn't want the kid, that should have happened. He shouldn't have slept with her. Again, there was proper protocol in place, and Onan disregarded God's commands, and he used this opportunity for personal and selfish sexual gain. And that's why God killed him. It had nothing to do with birth control or the pull-out method. Now, using this argument against contraceptives, it's an absolute gross misinterpretation of the Scripture, okay? The quiverful movement, they also argue that using contraceptives, it demonstrates a lack of trust in God. But this argument is just weak. It's so weak. We don't prove trust in God by not using contraceptives. We show we trust in God by obeying the commands that are actually in His Word. If we applied this logic to every area in our lives, we wouldn't purchase insurance. We would never have surgery. In fact, we wouldn't even get a job and go to work because, I'm trusting God. Okay, so that argument is weak. It doesn't stand. This issue of, whether or not to use contraceptives, it falls into the category of liberty of conscience. It's something that Scripture does not directly address. Having children is a blessing, but not mandated. Therefore, to avoid having them, it's not sinful. All this being said, one more thing. All forms of contraception are not created equal. Since life begins at the point of conception, all types of abortion, including the morning after pill, they are scripturally prohibited as they are the act of taking a life. So to answer the question, contraceptives are permitted amongst Christians, married ones. That's important. Okay. Basically, I have 10 or 11 questions left, but really it's only about 2 questions because, and this is kind of where we're going to conclude, but I got about 20% of the questions were about masturbation. So we're going to address this issue because obviously it's something that it weighs heavy on your minds, maybe something that is a struggle for some of you. So let's address it and let's talk straight about it. Okay, very good. Is masturbating wrong? If so, why? That was one question. Second question, is masturbation a sin? More of the same. Now, I'll start by saying this. The Bible is silent, 100% silent on the issue of masturbation. Some people have tried to use the story of Onan, the one that we just read, to teach against it, but this biblical account has nothing to do with masturbation. He spilled his seed on the ground. That is totally not the same thing. Apples and oranges. On biblical grounds, I cannot call masturbation a sin. I can't do it. I'd be lying, and that wouldn't be good, okay? I don't want to lie. However, I can call pornography a sin, and I can call lust a sin biblically. And more often than not, masturbation, porn, and or sexual fantasy go hand in hand. In fact, 99.99 repeating to infinity % of the time. So this kind of leads into the next question. Is masturbation a sin as long as you're not lusting over someone else while doing it? Well, technically, I suppose it's not a sin if you're not lusting. But again, in my opinion, that's impossible. I suppose you could be thinking about tractors or something, but you have other issues if that's the case. So, here's the fact of the matter, okay? Sexual fantasy and thoughts always, let me say always, sexual fantasy and sexual thoughts always accompany masturbation. Perhaps you're able to turn off the sexual thoughts for the minute or two while you're actually masturbating, but where has your brain been leading up to that moment? That's a question you need to ask yourself. What media have you been ingesting? Have you been checking out that scantily clad girl at your school all day? If you spend your days lusting and feeding that sexual appetite, and then you're able to masturbate while thinking of nothing, you're only fooling yourself if you think lust is not involved. You've been lusting all day. Lust brought you to that point of sexual tension. And the fact that you brought yourself to the point where you needed to relieve it or release it, whose fault is that? Yours, just in case you were wondering. Also, for men in particular, the more you masturbate and bring yourself to ejaculation, the faster your body produces more seminal fluid. Now, if you're masturbating to relieve your sexual tension, you will only find yourself wanting a release more and more often as your body produces more and more semen. Masturbation, it negates the original goal of relief from sexual stress as it only increases sexual stress over time, the more you do it. Because the more your body produces that seminal fluid, the more your body wants to discharge it and get rid of it. And so, really, masturbation, it negates that original purpose. Fundamentally, I think in this area, we need a paradigm shift. See, our world, what do they tell you about sex? They tell you that it is a biological Any other suggestions? Function, need, right? They tell you it's an absolute need, and it's not. You've been fed that lie probably for most of your teen years, but sex is not a biological need. It's not the same as eating and drinking or breathing air. You don't need sex to survive. You will not die, nor will your reproductive system become useless if you don't use it. You know, that whole use it or lose it thing, we need to lose that. That's garbage. It's not true. Blue balls does not exist. If you ever heard of that, it's not true. Just need to put that out there. If sex, okay, think about it this way, okay? If sex is actually a need, then God has put you in an impossible situation during your single years. It's impossible to serve God during your single years if sex is a need. But it's not a need. And when you start believing this fundamental truth, you stop thinking about it as trying to prolong the time until your next failure. Kind of like, trying to hold your breath. I'm going to hold my breath as long as I can until I absolutely need to take a breath. Do it. You want me to hold my breath? I'm not going to do it. But seriously, if you think about it that way, that, I'm just going to prolong this. It's a need that I have, so I'm going to prolong as long as I can until my next failure, and then there's going to come a time where I have no other choice but to give in to the pressure. That's the way you're going to think about it if you think of it as a need. But if you start buying into the fundamental truth that sex is not a need, but rather just something that your body is capable of doing, something that's wonderful, that promotes oneness in a marriage, that's when you can start getting victory. You don't need that release. You don't. You don't need it. You're never going to go... no one has ever died from this, and you're never going to go to a morgue. I heard that guy, Mark Gungor, say this in this series that I had watched while preparing for this, Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. He said, you're never going to go to a morgue and pick up the chart, and on the chart read, cause of death, failure to ejaculate. It's not a need. Maybe I should not have said that. At the end of the day, here's the bottom line. You already know that masturbation is wrong because your conscience tells you that it's wrong. After you're done, you feel icky, you feel that dirty feeling. You see, God has put that moral compass in you to direct you even when His word seems silent on an issue. So, next question, kind of in this same vein of thought, how do you say no to yourself if you have an urge to masturbate? It feels next to impossible to do, even if you try to distract yourself by praying or reading the Bible or something like this. Again, ask yourself what brought you to that moment. Where have your thoughts been? What have you been watching? What have you been listening to? Who do you hang around? I realize that it can be very difficult to manage your hormones as a single young adult, and I'm not trying to minimize the struggle, but change some of your other activity that you can change if you feel it is contributing to your struggle. If you constantly arouse yourself with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or with the media that you consume and then feel a ton of sexual pressure, again, that's in part your own fault. And you have fed that appetite to the point where you feel like it's a need and you have nobody to blame but yourself. So, I guess a couple more questions. Somebody asked, does God erase your name in the book of life if you mess up and masturbate? As with any sin, if you repent of it, God will forgive you. Again, sex is not in some higher echelon of sin. Sin is sin. Sin is sin. And if you repent, you give it to God, He'll forgive you. 3 more questions on masturbation. These all pertain to females, because it's not just a male problem. It's a female problem too. But the question was asked, do girls imprint on masturbation? How does masturbation affect the female after marriage? Does masturbation cause chemical imbalances in girls and guys? Now, I'm a guy, so I don't fully understand how the female brain works completely. But as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, females, they release chemicals in their brain like oxytocin just like men do when they experience an orgasm. And this chemical release, it can become just as addictive for women as men. Now, I can't speak with certainty on whether women imprint for masturbation, but I would imagine it'd be very similar to a male. So yes, I would say females do imprint on it in those initial experiences. I would say yes, it does impact the female after marriage, whether you masturbated before you were married or after. And it does create that chemical imbalance, kind of like the rewiring of the brain, much in the same way I would imagine for females as with guys. So, 2 more questions. 1, okay, I like a girl in my class at school. We talk a lot and are friends, but I like her more than a friend. She doesn't go to church. What do I do? Honestly, I would say invite her to church. If she doesn't come, steer clear. I mean, it's just that. I know it's not the answer you want to hear, but that's just the answer. She doesn't have the same morals as you. So, guys tend to be a little bit weaker, sexually. It's harder for guys to hold that line. You need a strong woman. You don't want somebody from the world. Last question, and I'm going to make some enemies on this one. I'm ready. I can take you. Just kidding. What is a good age to date? 70 times 7. Just kidding. Okay, what is a good age to date? Now, I want you guys to answer this question, and don't actually say it outright yet. Here's the thing. The 13-year-olds think 13 years old is a good age to date. The 9-year-olds think 9 years. Actually, they don't really care about the other opposite sex yet. 14-year-olds. 14 years old, that's a great time to date. But I want you to think about this logically, and then we're going to maybe answer a couple questions. There's cookies up here, which are just awesome. But I want you to answer this question to answer that question. When is an appropriate age? In your mind, when can you see yourself getting married? Okay? I want to ask you, Isaiah, what do you think? 25? Okay, hey, that's not a wrong answer. People get married at 25 all the time. What about you, Ben? Like a serious answer. 23? Okay. 19? Okay, I got married at 19. I was young, in my opinion. Okay, what about you, Alex? 12? 20-something? Okay. Do you want to just say 21 for argument's sake? Okay. So, everyone in here, you're getting married at 21. Okay? Just pretend. Give me your, some of you are past 21. You're like, I'm going to go back in time. Give me your attention for 1 second, okay? Give me your attention. If your appropriate age for getting married is 21, would you really think that it's wise to start dating at like 15? Do you think that you could, what if you found the one? What if the one you were interested in at 15, it could happen. What if they were the one that you're supposed to marry? Do you think that you could date them and stay pure for 6 years? That's an honest answer, and it's the right answer. It is so difficult. The longer you're with somebody, the more it just feels like you're married or you're supposed to be married, and physical intimacy is a part of the natural progression. In bygone eras, they didn't date or court longer than a few months, maybe a year. Cultures are different everywhere. But 6 years, that's tough. Some of you are in relationships right now. You're like a year and a half, 2 years in, and it's tough. There's sexual pressures in romantic relationships. So, what if you get married at 25 and you start dating at 16 years old? It's like 9 years to keep yourself pure. That's awful tough. So, in my opinion, I don't think that you should date seriously and romantically 3 years, more than 3 years before you can see yourself actually getting married, being self-sustaining and all that kind of stuff. It's not to say you can't go on casual dates, and this is just my recommendation, but go on casual dates, things like this. But as far as being romantically involved, 14-year-olds, I love you, but cut that out. You don't need to do that. That's just crazy. Anyway, if you hate me, hate me. But if you love me, great. I'm happy about that too. And that's all I got for questions. So why don't we do this? If you want a cookie, I don't know when they're going to get out there. We're just going to basically say we're done. We're going to continue with some live questions if there's appropriate ones.